Alright, so welcome back. So we're pretty much gonna start where we left off on our last video. We're gonna implement a use before unload hook to our form 2. So basically what's going on is when we go here, start our server. So when we go to next, that we have our symptoms here, but when we refresh, everything gets reset and we can no longer fetch for the symptoms. So there was a couple ways that I was trying to think of how I can approach this. One way we can do it is by using, like we did here, use before unload, and use the local storage. Another way, I think another way we can do it is instead of using context, so instead of having this, we can have pet info in here. Do we have, I think it will be, well, I think actually we might not be able to do it like that, because I was thinking it's basically get pet info and pass it to the form 2. But what we're doing here is we're navigating to form 2, set pet info to the values, and then we're receiving those values from the parent. And so if we were to try to store, okay, so what we can do is access the local storage in form 1, and so instead of having like set pet info here, we set pet info in local storage as an object. So basically we'll do something like, and we'll comment this out, local storage dot set item, I think it is, and it's like JSON dot stringify, and then we'll give it a name of pet info, and we'll set the this is values, and then here we do, I think this is how you do it, like that. So we can set this in the local storage instead of setting it as a state, and then when we go to the next page, it'll be in our local storage. So let's clear this out, and we can get so up here we can say access pet info from local storage, and so that would look something like const pet info equals local storage dot get item. I don't remember if it's item or items, but we can look it up. And then we want to basically JSON.parse, and we say pet info. Something like that. And so then it will be an object, and then we just pass in, we create a new object, pass in those values with the new values, and then pass that as post. And so we can now just delete the whole context approach. Instead of using state. Now, the reason why I'm using state, now we can do it like that. The reason why I was using state is because I didn't. I actually forgot why I was using state. Why was I using it? Context. I was using context. I forgot why though. But the reason why I was thinking maybe we can do it this way is because we're gonna use local state anyway when we use the use before unload. When we use this hook, use before unload, it's gonna use local storage as well. So since we're gonna use local storage, might as well just do it from the beginning, and it'll also reduce the need to create a whole context, and like we can delete the whole component. My only, not necessarily concern, but now since if we're going to remove use pet assessment, then up here we will have to access the local storage as well. So basically do this in here. And so that means that this is always going to be defined. And so here, since it's always going to be defined, we're going to run into that same issue that we had in our last. We will have to refactor this. Because ID is going to be defined since we're going to be getting it from pet info. But the consistency will be there. And we will have to go back and figure out how we can basically have this work for us again. It will stay consistent throughout the form. We will no longer have to account for state reset. So let's weigh the pros. So the pros are we will have consistent data throughout our different components. So the pros for using local storage is that we will have consistent data throughout our components. Since they will be stored in the local storage, we will have access to them unless, or even if it gets cleared, we will sit. An edge case in that sense would be like if a user was to go here, right, in the first form, click next, the pet is here, and then they literally, like, if they open the DevTools and delete pet info here, and then refresh the page, then obviously, like, it's going to lose all the data. But, like, no user is going to do that. So, we could put, obviously, like, a soft fail error warning or something when it comes to that, but, yeah. It will change. It will, so thinking in that sense, then, like, I don't know, maybe that person, like, is a programmer, but like any other user is just going to want to use the website the way it's meant to be used, for the most part. So the pros for having local storage, for it to be stored in local storage, is that the data will be consistent throughout the different components. So when you go from form 1 to form 2 to the results, to fetching the results with the pet.id info, we will be getting it from the local storage ID. So it will always be defined, and then we'll run into that same issue that we were. So we'll have to refactor this and figure out, with that approach, since ID is always going to be defined, we won't need to do this anymore. What we could do is what we could do is since ID is always going to be defined, we could do a state. We could create a state and say basically like, okay, so how would we think about this? We access, we land here. Pet info will be in local storage. We call this which will give us the results, and we render the results. When we refresh, pet info is going to still be defined, and now on refresh, the user will be just hitting that API every time it refreshes. So we would have to account and think about how we can basically say, once we get results, if results is already been defined, or basically we can do in here, instead of setting results in here, we can set results to local storage. So in here we set results to local storage. And then keep this here. Right. And then we keep this here. Right. We set results, we return those results. So when we return those results, we'll have them here. When the user refreshes, this is going to be called again. In this case, instead of using the ID condition, we call on the local storage. We'll say, instead of using the ID in the condition, we use, I think in here we did local storage, and then, but can we access local storage like that? Let's see here. Get item. I think we can. Even though it says like to use this method. I'm not sure if the reason why we're able to do this is because we're using, I don't know if this hook basically converts or, you know, does something to this where we can, I wonder if we can look at the code of use before unload. Alright, let's explore real quick for 1 second. Oops. Come on. Wonder if we can find just trying to find the code. Actually, let's see if we can sometimes no. I was kind of trying to see if we can look at the code of this hook, but I think it's gonna require too much digging into. So, and it's really not that big of a deal to use it this way. Like, we are setting it, we're not gonna get it, and all that good stuff. So, what I was thinking of is basically, instead of using the ID in the condition, we check to see if pet results exist in local storage first. And if it exists in the local storage, if it doesn't exist, then we run this code. If it does exist, then we just set results to the storage, and then we can also eliminate this function. So there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of benefits with using local storage, it seems like. And I think we can make it work. It'll keep the consistency throughout the forms. So if the user refreshes by for any reason or whatever, it's fine. And then also, if the user, whenever the user leaves the component, so if they click, so in results right here, right, they're going to do that, and then when they click here, they're going to be, when they click start all over, they'll be set to the beginning of the form. In form 1, we do want to create a use effect to check if there are any pet info. To check it, let me see, create a use effect and check if there is anything stored in local storage. So in this case, since we're going to be doing a lot of local storage stuff, we might end up local storage is like literally one line of code. But we might create like a function, like a helper function that says like check local storage, or something like that, or set local storage, get local storage, and then check. We'll definitely need like a check local storage, setting it and all that good stuff. I mean, we'll still have to pass in the values, so it could be set, and it will be like a function. It could look cleaner, so it doesn't hurt to extract it, even if it's a one-liner, just so that it'll be easier to read. So yeah, so in here at the beginning of the form, or whenever the user navigates to another page, so like if they navigate, so like in here, instead of just having them navigate, well, no, that's only if they end up sitting, like, this is only if they end up clicking start all over. But say they don't click start all over, and they say, and they're at the results page, and they want to go to dashboard. There's no way of clearing the local storage. I want to clear, basically, it's important to clear it in case they create a new pet with new results. I don't want to overstore a lot, like, especially if they're going to be doing like a lot of pets and stuff like that. I don't want to just store all of them in here like that. I want them to eventually be deleted if they're going to create a new pet. So I think the safest way to do that is by creating a use effect in here and basically check if anything is stored in local storage, right? If there, so we can just literally just run like this remove command. And honestly, I don't even think we could, well, unless it throws an error when we do this, I'll have to double check, but we might not need to do the condition. We might just do a use effect and then call local storage.remove items. If it ends up yelling at us, then we can do a if statement, and basically if there is if there is data in local storage, delete data, and that will look something like this. How would you delete? Oh, it says if you want to delete everything, so yeah, we'll say clear. This is if we want to delete one thing. Okay, so I think, honestly, I think that's the best way we can. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of pros here. This is causing a lot of issues with state being reset on refresh, and it just feels so tangled up. Using local storage feels a lot more consistent and persistent. So yeah, let's go ahead and take that approach and implement that. So we'll do that in our next video.